Hello everybody, my name is Spoons Rattling, and welcome to another video. Today we are doing the Word Bearers in 10th edition. Let's get into it. So, as you know, I did that Alpha Legion video a few days ago, and that was really fun. I enjoyed making the concept for the strategies and the enhancements and everything, so I figured I would take a crack at the other legions. Now, obviously, I only play Alpha Legion, but I do like to read through the other legions and, just knowing everything my codex can do. And starting out, I figured I'd go with the Word Bearers. No particular reason. They're just a popular faction that I figured would be a solid place to start this little mini-series on. Let's get into it and spread the good word of our Chaos Lords and Saviors. Oh, whoops. Starting, we have the Detachment ability. I've decided to call this Detachment concept the Heralds of the Dark Gods. Units in this detachment add 1 to the hit roll in melee after performing a charge, and increase the strength of their melee by 1, and units in this detachment, when advancing, if you roll a 1 or a 2, instead treat it as a 3. So I wanted to keep the flavor of these, charging forward insane priests that want to throw hands and preach about the Dark Gods, and so I kept the sort of flavor of that by making their advances more consistent, and also adding some extra melee might when they get there. It's very simple, but I think representative of how the Word Bearers tend to function in 40k. They're charging forward with reckless abandon to destroy their enemies and kill the False Emperor and its followers. Anyways, on to the enhancements. First up, we have my personal favorite, what I call Perfect Possession. This is for non-Terminator infantry only. You add 3 inches to this unit's move characteristic. This model can lead possessed. You want to select 1 melee weapon this unit has. That weapon gains +1 strength. This model's unit can advance and still declare a charge. This model gains a demon/demonkin keywords. Whichever the possessed get, he would also gain. Now I made it 3 inches because I presume possessed will still be moving 9 inches, so that would have him moving the same speed as them. But if they move 10, then he would get 4 inches, just sort of, the idea. Next up, we have Exalted Demagogue. This is for a Dark Apostle only. You increase this model's leadership by 1, and friendly heretic Astartes within 6 inches of this unit gain a 5+ feel no pain and can use this model's leadership instead of their own. This is to represent, the standard classic Word Bearers thing of having a demagogue at the center of their forces, chanting and scrying to the dark gods for power and protection, and inspiring his nearby troops, as well as using that warp-born protection to keep them safe. And keeping them more in check as they're inspired by his words, and the warp obviously coming down to protect them. It's just, I think it's a very flavorful enhancement for them, or something along these lines. And then for the final one, we have the Malefic Tome. This is for a Psyker model only. You select a psychic weapon this model is equipped with. That weapon gains +1 strength and damage. If the weapon is hazardous, instead of taking 3 mortal wounds, take 2. So this is, obviously, if you fail the hazardous test, you would take 2 mortal wounds instead of 3 with this. And then, most of these psychic weapons have good AP, so I figured adding more AP would be counterintuitive to what they're doing with this edition, overall reducing AP. So I left the AP off, but the increased strength and damage can certainly help, as most psychic attacks already have decent AP. I think most have 2 or 3 AP. If they're not like flamethrower attacks, if they're flamethrower attacks, they usually have no AP, or AP 1 at most. So that's sort of my thinking, or reasoning with that enhancement. As you can see, a few of these are sort of ported from 9th edition to 10th, but I figured I could add a bit more flavor, which is something I really think they should do with the detachments, is have things like Perfect Possession that allow this to sort of treat a unit differently. It just adds flavor to these armies that don't really get unique models. And then for the final thing, we have Stratagems. First up is Hexagrammic Wards. This is 1 CP. When a model fails a save, change the damage of that attack to 0. Each unit can only be targeted by this stratagem once. So my reasoning is, obviously the Word Bearers are known for putting runes all over their armor, and this represents those dark runes exploding with power to, say, negate an incoming las cannon shot, but then they have to recharge them by returning to the warp or doing some rituals. It's just a simple, very powerful defensive buff that will help keep them safe as they charge forward. Then we have Saved by the Warp for 2 CP. When a character model is destroyed at the end of the turn, return the character anywhere on the board greater than 9 inches from enemy models with full wounds remaining. This is to represent a Chaos Lord or Demon Prince on his last legs. He's about to be cut down, and then the warp reaches forth, grabs him, pulls him back, renews him with warp energy, and drops him back in the field, but leaving his retinue behind. If he has a retinue, he would leave them where they were, if they even were still alive, and only he returns to the fight. Then we have Naive Zealotry for 1 CP. You select one cultist unit during the charge phase, reroll charges made by that unit, and add 1 to the hit roll in combat as well. This is just I think it's to represent their mortal followers or accursed cultists, thinking that they're basically invincible because they pray to the dark gods, and wanting to earn glory and earn more power from the warp, they charge recklessly into combat. Where, with that, what's the effect? Where if you envision something, you're more likely to do it. Basically, since they think they're going to be more powerful, they're a little bit more powerful in melee. This is to help, slow things down with cultists, or use accursed cultists if you want to run a lot of them. Next, we have Dark Prayers. This is going to be 1 CP. You select one character leading a unit. That unit increases their melee weapon strength by 1, and grants the sustained hits 1 until your next command phase. So, just a flat damage boost as their leader chants and prays to the dark gods to empower their weapons. Then we have Sacrifice to the Dark Gods for 1 CP. When a friendly unit destroys an enemy unit in melee, add 1 to their melee weapon's attack profile. If they destroy the enemy with ranged weapons, add 1 to their ranged weapon attack profile. I.e., an Astartes Chainsword would increase from 4 attacks to 5 until the end of the battle. This is to represent them, they destroy an enemy and then they hail it to one of the dark gods of their choosing. If they're in melee, it could be Khorne or Slaanesh. They say, take this, and then they grow in power. They get more energy and they can fight more. But if they kill them with guns, then they sacrifice that to Tzeentch or Nurgle, and they think, oh yes, here, more powerful weaponry. I think it's just a fun way to increase power from doing what you should be doing, which is killing things and sacrificing them to the dark gods. And then lastly, we have Demonic Ammunition for 1 or 2 CP. When a friendly unit is selected to shoot, increase the range of their weapons by 6%. They also gain the Anti-Infantry 4+ rule and increase their AP by 1 until the end of the phase. This stratagem costs 1 CP for units with 6 or less models and 2 CP if 7 or more, or vehicles. So, just to quickly clarify that, 6 or more less models is the new 5 or more because you can attach characters. It's just the same as the blast rules. And then this is sort of represent them having, cursed and enchanted their ammunition with powers of the warp. So they're firing out, and when the demonic energies explode when they make contact, they start to steal that poor guardsman or whatever it is, steal their soul and start to take it back to the warp. This is just to help them give some extra ranged bite, and I think it's relatively flavorful. I think the word bearers would employ weapons fueled by demon-powered rounds. I don't see why they wouldn't. I think that would be perfect for their fire support, whether that's Havocs or just kitted-out Chaos Space Marines. And that wraps up my idea for a Word Bearers-inspired Force for 10th. Let me know what you think down below and who you want to see next. I'll see you all next time.